Hey, Lobo fans, we welcome you into another edition of Lobo Classics. Today we celebrate the 1981 Lobo softball team. I'm your host, Robert Portnoy, with Paula Congleton, one of the stars of that team and the current Lobo softball coach. Paula, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Robert. Thanks again. And this is just a phenomenal opportunity to kind of share some of those memories and get that throwback in there.
Wonderful idea to do Lobo Classics during this COVID-19 crisis. And we get to highlight a team I know that is so close, so near and dear to your heart. So the program was in its infancy, right? I mean, it was very early on for Lobo softball when you were an undergraduate, and you guys got really good, really fast.
Yeah, we sure did. In fact, the program started in 1978. With some of our actually pretty local recruits, Tammy Goff and Karen Pace, were I think the first couple of signees for Susan Craig, and they were both out of Carlsbad. So yeah, to pop into that program and as a freshman and have those guys as seniors kind of leading the way, you're right, we pretty much dominated the conference.
You dominated your conference, and collegiate athletics for the women looked different at that time. In fact, there was a different governing body, and I know that governing body, you are very proud of it, and it was really important to women in college athletics at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the NCAA was, running hard and everything, but was particularly more interested in men's sports. So we had the AIAW, which was the Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women. And I believe it was Donna Lupiano, who we all know even today as a leader in women's sports, was the head. And, she just got some traction going, and all of the national championships and things like that for most of women's sports were held under the AIAW up until about, I think it was 1981 into the transition of 82 is when NCAA finally kind of started to engage and kind of take control. And of course, then that was kind of the beginning of the end for AIAW. And then now we're all under NCAA. In fact, there's 291 eligible Division I softball teams that are eligible for the College World Series as of today.
Incredible. And there are now 64 participants in the Women's College World Series. But back then, when you played, it was a much smaller tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we didn't even have super regionals. We went from playing our regular season tournament, our regular season, and then going into a regional tournament. And from that regional tournament, we bounced right into the College World Series. So our regional that particular year, 1981, we had Idaho, we had Utah, and New Mexico State was in our conference. And we went 4-0 out of regionals. And then, we were riding high, positive attitude, the mission, we were going after that mission that Susan Craig and Ken Johnson had set up for us. And that was to make it to the College World Series. And we did so. So kind of looking back on that, I mean, the train was running, right? We're running right through, kind of to back up a little bit. We didn't even have a locker room. I don't know if you guys know, but back when I was playing, that space in between Lobo baseball field and Lobo softball field, that's where we parked. That was the parking lot. There was no clubhouse. There was no indoor facility. Bathrooms were porta potties, or we ran across the street to the Maloof Center, and that's where we changed. I mean, so, a lot has changed, but, kind of running through regionals 4-0, beating Utah, Idaho, and New Mexico State set us up really with a positive outlook going into the World Series. And please, I mean, we had Tippy Borrego. Tippy Borrego, not only a phenomenal teammate, along with Tammy Goff, Karen Pace, Bobby Smith, Claire Miller, my shortstop, Meg Connors, Michelle Mills, Sue Craigseth. Man, it was just a phenomenal team. And we were just so tight-knit and positive with each other. And like I said, Tippy, man, she was a force to be reckoned with the whole season. I think she still holds most of the pitching records even as of today. I mean, she led, I think, over 300 innings, 6 strikeouts a game. She had a 1.34 ERA going into nationals. I mean, she was a killer. She was phenomenal. So, you know, with a tight defense behind her, I think, you know, that's where I basically attribute it to our success. Is everything was just rolling on like a fine-tuned engine. So it was a phenomenal time.
You mentioned Tippy Borrego, and I do want to get to the first game of the College World Series in 1981 and the pitching performance that she delivered. Before we do that, though, let's rewind, because I believe it was your first year in the program, the year before, where you guys made the regional, and you were really good, but you didn't get through the regional. How instructive and how important was that experience?
Oh, it was you know, phenomenal, because, you know, as a new program, I mean, who's looking for the Lobos, right? I mean, that program was brand new. So for Susan and Ken Johnson to get us to that point, just like on a dime, was amazing. And I think we lost to Cal Poly in regionals, and just being on that big stage and having the opportunity to play against the country's best teams was a phenomenal experience. I mean, as a freshman, I mean, amazing, right? Like, oh my gosh, I picked the right school. I picked the right school. We're on a roll, right? So heading into that second year in 81, it was like returning to, of course, familiar territory. And that made that experience just, of course, that more enjoyable. It was all of our passion, and it was, I mean, that's what kind of laid the groundwork, was the 80 season into the 81, where we were, all right, let's go. Let's see what we can do.
Okay, so Tippy Borrego gets the ball for Big Bad Oklahoma in Game 1 of the College World Series in 1981, and she deals. Give us some emotional accounts of that day. I think she pitched hitless base softball, right? She was. You guys lost 1-0. She was incredible.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, you know, just throughout her career, she wanted the ball. Like, she didn't care that we had a staff of pitchers, right? I mean, most pitchers, when they're that high level, they want the ball all the time. And that was Tippy. And just phenomenal. Man, when she was dialed in. In fact, it's kind of funny, because my last year, we had our alumni event, and we had her throw out the first pitch. And we were kind of reminiscing and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, Tip, this is often, you know, so awesome. And do you remember when we played against Oklahoma? And she was like, yeah. She was like, I didn't even know how big those Sooners were. She was like, I just was dialed into Tammy, and I didn't even know. And she goes, after the game, when half of those players were 6 foot tall, she was like, oh wow, I threw to all those girls. So she was just so dialed in and so competitive that, I mean, it was amazing. And talk about a phenomenal catcher behind the dish for her was Tammy Goff, you know, good sized kid, 5'10", just a phenomenal player too. So yeah, Tippy always kind of kept us on edge, but man, she always came through.
You mentioned Tammy Goff, her battery mate. She led you guys in hitting that year, 353. And she was the MVP of the regional that you swept to get you to the College World Series. Obviously, she was as big a bat as you had in the lineup, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only was she a smart defensive player, but also offensively, and she carried a lot of power. You know, back then our bats were aluminum. And here's another funny fact for you: we didn't wear helmets. And the pitchers threw from 40 feet. So, you know, talk about warriors out there.
You're braver than I'll tell you that, Paula.
That's right. So, you know, the game has just changed so much. But yeah, Tammy, man, she was, again, just a phenomenal player, a phenomenal leader, kind-hearted. But when it came to it, she pushed all of us and was really the general of the field.
Well, you mentioned that she always wanted the ball. And she came back the next game, and you guys staved off elimination. You beat Illinois State 1-0. The first College World Series win in Lobo softball history.
Yeah, phenomenal. In fact, of course, that's where most memories lie, but we played Margie Wright, Illinois State. And for those of you that don't know Margie Wright, I mean, phenomenal coaching career, legendary in the sport of softball. She was at Illinois State and then moved over to Fresno State, where they took several national championships. But yes, I mean, we knew we had to win, right? It's a double elimination. So we got in there, and what I remember most about that one, because it pertains to me specifically, is I got on base and got moved around to third. And one of my very dear friends, of course, even today, Meg Connors, and she played left field for us. And she was up to bat. I was at third. And we both looked over at Ken, of course, for our signals. And he called a squeeze. And I was like, all right, here we go. You know, it's a 1-0 game. It was late inning. And man, I took off. Meg laid down a beautiful bunt. I score. We hold them off, win the game, right? So it was just amazing. I mean, Meg, we're all jumping in the air. Like you said, first World Series game win for the Lobos. So just an amazing experience. And it was, I mean, we beat Illinois State. And then come into the third game and play Oklahoma State. And, you know, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was, you know, just they were a better team, that we were still hyped, or I don't know, maybe we were tired. I don't remember all those small details, but Oklahoma State came in. I believe they beat us 5-2, and that kind of finished it up for us. But still, just an amazing experience. You know, even now, Robert, I share that experience with my team and have throughout my entire coaching career, even at Santa Barbara. Just the experience of being at the College World Series is the pinnacle of what our sport is all about. And I had the opportunity to be there, so very proud of that.
Just a few short moments left on this edition of Lobo Classics, and I wanted to ask you to just put into words the emotions of being a native of Albuquerque, being a part of that first College World Series trip, and now coming back home after such a long time away to coach your alma mater.
Yeah, it's almost hard to put it into words. Yeah, just the experience, you know, with my teammates. I mean, we pushed each other. We knew it was a huge gratitude, and we had such appreciation, and we knew it was a privilege to play for the Lobos and to be part of such a great institution, the University of New Mexico. So that in itself is huge. But to make it to the World Series, and then for me to come back full circle as the head coach, I mean, this is the pinnacle of my career, and I am so proud. You know, my mom gets to be in the stands. A lot of our alumni have come back, and you know, you've been out to some of our games, the stands. We've got 800, 1,000 fans at our games. So, you know, the vibe is high. Everybody's excited about us, and I'm super stoked about that, because that just makes me more proud of what our history was and what the traditions we have set for Lobo softball. And I really think that we're on the right path. You know, our season was cut short, and you know, that was just an awful thing, but we've got to take care of America, right? We've got to take care of our people. But we're on the right track, and I know we can be that that team that's going to be in the College World Series coming up here pretty soon.
Well, Paula, I know all of Lobo Nation is so happy to have you back here in Albuquerque and with UNM, and we look forward to seeing the heights that you can take the Lobo softball program as the head coach. And thanks for taking us on a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Robert. It's been an honor and phenomenal experience in 1981, and again, current time as the Lobo head coach.
Appreciate you very much, Paula Congleton, head coach of Lobo softball and former Lobo softball star herself on that 1981 College World Series team. A big thank you to Daniel Gallegos, our host for Lobo Classics. And that'll do it for this edition. So long, everybody, and go Lobos.